July 15, 1946. Port Hueneme. 600 veterans sleep in line outside a Navy surplus depot. They are not waiting for food. They are not waiting for work. They are waiting to buy a building, a structure they already know. $230 for a basic unit, 288 with windows. By the end of the first day, more than half are gone. These men had returned from a war that spread them across continents. Alaska, North Africa, the Pacific, Europe, and in every one of those places, they lived inside the same architecture. A curved steel shell, no corners, no load points, no structural confusion, just a continuous arch that refused to fail. This is not a story about a building that struggled. This is a story about a building that worked so well it had to be controlled. The archive opened in April 1916. A trench near Ypres. Peter Norman Nissen crouches in mud that swallows everything it touches. He is a mining engineer by training, now a major in the British Army's Royal Engineers. Around him, structures fail constantly. Timber shelters collapse under saturation, earth dugouts cave under pressure, reinforced positions deform and rot. Everything built is temporary in the worst possible way. But Nissen isn't just observing failure, he is remembering one. Years earlier, at Queen's University, a curved timber roof had collapsed. Not because the idea was wrong, because the execution was wrong. Most engineers remembered collapse as failure. Nissen remembered it as geometry. The curve wasn't the problem, the structure was. April 16, 1916. He begins construction. No committee, no approval chain, no bureaucracy. 3 days later, 3 curved steel huts stand in the mud. Corrugated iron sheets bolted into a semicircle. No internal beams, no roof joints, no weak intersections. Soldiers who had watched everything collapse now watch something hold. By August, mass production begins. Standardized panels, factory stamping, rapid assembly systems. 6 men can build one in 4 hours. Fastest recorded build, 1 hour in 27 minutes. By the end of World War I, over 100,000 Nissen huts existed across Allied forces. The curve that failed in a university survives a global war. Same physics, different execution. The archive reopens in March 1941. Quonset Point. The United States Navy issues a challenge. Design a structure that can be shipped anywhere in the world and assembled by untrained labor. Deadline, 60 days. Otto Brandenburger leads the design team, the only licensed architect in the group. He builds the manufacturing plant in 30 days while the team designs the hut simultaneously. Working around the clock. The Navy names it after its birthplace. Quonset, a Narragansett word meaning boundary. The solution is not new, it is refined. The Quonset hut. Within 4 years, 153,000 units produced, shipped in wooden crates, assembled with a single bolt system, built by unskilled workers in 1 day. No engineering specialization required, no precision trades required, just repetition of a curve that already proved itself under war conditions. They are deployed everywhere: Alaska, Greenland, North Africa, Pacific Islands, Europe. Same design, same geometry, same physics. Every environment the military can reach. And they hold. Then the war ends, and the housing crisis begins. Back to July 15, 1946. Those veterans waiting in line are not experimenting. They're buying certainty, a structure they have already survived inside. Across the United States, Quonset huts become homes. Entire communities form. In Los Angeles, large-scale housing developments emerge for returning soldiers. Universities install them at scale to absorb GI Bill enrollment surges. University of Iowa uses them for decades beyond intended lifespan. Northwestern University houses thousands of returning veterans. University of Minnesota constructs full residential clusters. In Nashville, one structure becomes Columbia Studio B. Inside the curved steel shell, something unexpected happens. The architecture shapes sound. not by design, but by physics. The curvature distributes reflections differently than flat walls. It creates a unique acoustic signature. Inside that space, history is recorded. Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline. The same structure that survived war becomes part of cultural memory. Designed for 5 years, still standing 50 years later. Temporary becomes permanent without permission. So why does it work? The answer is measurable, not theoretical. In 2006, researchers P.A. Blackmore and E. Sokri published wind tunnel studies in the Journal of Wind Engineering and Industrial Aerodynamics. They measured how wind actually interacts with buildings. Traditional gable roofs create pressure spikes up to 20 times baseline at roof corners. 20 times. That is where structural failure begins. Corners concentrate stress. Edges create turbulence. Joints amplify force. Curved structures behave differently. They reduce uplift forces by up to 30%. Not slightly better. Structurally different. Wind doesn't collide with the surface. It flows over it, following curvature instead of breaking against edges. Bernoulli's principle explains the second effect. As air accelerates over a curved surface, pressure drops. The structure doesn't resist wind through strength alone. It changes the airflow itself. But the most important factor is structural continuity. A conventional house has a wall-to-roof joint. 2 systems connected at a seam. That seam is the weakest point. When uplift occurs, failure begins there and spreads. A Quonset hut has no seam. The roof and wall are one continuous shell. Load transfers directly into the foundation. No separation point. No cascade failure. August 2004. Hurricane Charley. Punta Gorda. Category 4 storm. 150 mph sustained winds. Entire neighborhoods destroyed. Roofs stripped away. The walls collapsed. Entire homes erased. One structure remains. Scott Rambo. His home is a steel arch. After the storm passes, he inspects it. No structural damage, no deformation, no surface failure, not even a wrinkle. Surrounding homes are gone. His remains. So the question changes. If it is stronger, faster, cheaper, why is it not standard? The answer is not engineering. It is a legal and economic structure. The Village of Rothbury. March 18th, 1968. Ordinance 17. It shall be unlawful for any person to use as a dwelling any building commonly known as a Quonset hut. No testing, no analysis, no comparison, just prohibition. That pattern repeats. Local zoning laws classify them as agricultural or industrial. Residential exclusion follows. Homeowner associations reinforce the separation through design rules. Aesthetic standards become structural barriers. Then comes finance. Appraisal systems rely on comparable sales. Quonset homes lack comparable markets. Result: undervaluation. Mortgage systems classify them as non-standard construction. Down payments increase to 30-40%. Conventional homes remain at 320%. Insurance systems label them high-risk classification despite material advantages. Steel resists fire, pests, wind, and rot better than wood. But estimation systems cannot model their geometry, so cost increases. Now follow the money. The U.S. residential construction market exceeds $95 billion annually. The National Association of Home Builders spent $3.45 million on lobbying in 2024. The American Wood Council explicitly states its goal: maintain and expand market opportunities for wood in building codes. The Softwood Lumber Board reports $45 in revenue for every $1 invested in promotion. This is not preference, it is infrastructure. A structure that costs $75,000 to build does not support a $300,000 mortgage. A home that survives hurricanes does not generate reconstruction demand. A building that requires minimal maintenance does not generate recurring revenue streams. The Quonset hut breaks every financial assumption in the system, and yet it is still being built. They coded it out. They cannot code out Category 4. Subscribe, the next archive opens soon. Now let's get back to the investigation. Earl Parson, former Los Angeles architect, left conventional practice, moved to rural Arizona, built 4 Quonset base structures. Cost $50, $95 per square foot. Now teaches others how to build outside traditional systems. A family in rural Pennsylvania, 3-person crew, 2 weeks of labor, 1,600 square feet, total cost under $35,000, completed, functional, permanent. Roger Young Village, 750 Quonset huts, 112 acres in Griffith Park, 1,500 families, roughly 5,000 people. Historians call it the most diverse community in Southern California at the time. The village helped end de facto segregation at nearby restaurants. Cost per unit delivered, $1,800. Kristen Grant. Raised 20 arches with family in approximately 10 hours. Built for tornado resistance. After 5 years living inside it, the only complaint is rain noise on steel. That is the trade. Sound, for survival. The pattern is consistent, where zoning disappears, where regulation weakens, where economic filters loosen, the structure returns. Because it never stopped working. From ancient arches, to Roman vaults, to wartime steel shelters, the principle remains unchanged. Continuous compression. Load distributed through a curve, no weak points, no failure chain. In 1946, a home cost $230. Today, it exceeds $400,000. Materials did not degrade, physics did not change, only the system evolved, and the arch, it is still waiting. In warehouses, in rural landscapes, in designs that don't fit the template. They will not tell you that 153,000 Quonset huts sheltered American soldiers across 2 world wars, and thousands still stand 80 years later. They will not tell you that Scott Rambo's steel arch survived Category 4 winds without a single wrinkle, while surrounding homes were erased from their foundations. They will not tell you that the American Wood Council's stated mission is to expand market opportunities for wood in building codes. Their words, not mine. They will not tell you that a family of 3 built 1,600 square feet of permanent housing for $35,000. Less than the down payment on a median American home. The concrete dome that survived the atomic bomb, and why American building codes have never mentioned it. Hiroshima, 1945. Would you like it? Every share builds what they tried to bury. Every comment maps another path around the zoning wall. Don't forget to check for the next archive